Peace, y'all. My name is Rob Gibbs. I go by the artist name ProBlak. Pro is for black is all people. I'm a Roxbury born and raised native who's out here putting some paint where it ain't. The People's Heart piece that I've created for Mass General, the People's Heart. What inspired it was a buildup from a mural series I've been doing around the city. And when I say around the city, I mean in like locations that are very instrumental and vital to the way that I grew up and just the people I connected with. I've developed a visual narrative called Breathe Life. And Breathe Life highlights the ability to take something negative and breathe life into it to make it positive. And instead of me treating it as a campaign of sorts, I wanted to do something that gave like a visual narrative where it supported these words and it wasn't something that was as cliche as a billboard going everywhere. There's so many stories connected to just, like I said, this visual language that I created. And I want to highlight just like a lot of conversations that I have in reference to like if there's people that I've had connections with, they influence what my output is. So it's open-ended to whoever's looking at it to be able to find something in it that they connect with. The galaxy and a lot of the hair is just me experimenting with this idea of Afrofuturism. And again, you know, the Hubble galaxy and the universe is something that I feel like is bigger than what we sit back to try to think of. And a lot of times when I'm looking at it and I'm trying to connect with how or what's fascinating me about this intergalactic thing, I'll say it again, it's about universal thought and just how in a way that we connect. And it's such a good feel that there's so many people that could connect with that to have some level of like amazement by it. The reference is just based off of a piece that I previously done before it. And I don't have any like interest in going in outer space and trying to see it myself. I haven't been like thrilled by it as a child, but there's something that's a blood memory that's causing me to do this, where I just feel like I'm channeling just my soul telling me what to do. You'll see me paint a lot of young women and ladies as figures, where it's been shared with me just in a conversation where like, if you see the different stages in the Breathe Life murals, you'll see this little girl growing up. And in equivalence to me having a daughter, I feel like I'm raising this child in front of everybody through my artwork, you know? And the best thing about it is that my daughter will look at the pieces and be like, hey, Dad, that's me. So if she's seeing images that she can relate to of strong black women in reference to just art and how it's celebrated in the areas or just where her dad and her mom grew up at, you know, I'm leaving messages inside of these murals and in these pieces where like wherever she would come across it, she would kind of understand what I wanted to tell her throughout the time that she's been growing up, where she was probably a little too young for me to download all this information. I put it in the artwork just for like her and other children like her and her friends and everybody, just people in the area and the communities just to be able to connect with. The intricacies inside of the piece, I want to talk more or less about the color palette. There's a palette, which is the hardest thing to discover as an artist, that I've like completely repeat. It's like a rinse and repeat type of thing. And I don't know how many people would catch on to the fact that I've used red, black, and green. You know, I highlight purple in ways where I'm talking to my daughter's birthstone, which is amethyst, or just the royalty in that color. The background color is an off-white color that people will notice, and it's called Patience, uniquely, from the Sherwin-Williams color palette. I'm not saying that I'm building a manifesto behind it, but it's like, you know, it's just me remixing something that I felt like I connected very strongly to. And more importantly, when I'm doing public work, these colors are universal to just about everywhere I put them, you know? So it's not one of those things where I have it in an area or in a community and it sticks out like a sore thumb. I paint this Patience on the wall. It's opening up a portal to a whole nother world where I'm taking a piece of your time, and I'm honoring it by just being thoughtful on what I put out there and just trying to deliver some level of a message that like captures what was on my heart, what was in my soul at the time and when I was channeling. This introduction with the banner will hopefully help connect what we're doing on the street and what we have as a practice, and that's the key word, practice and accountability. I feel like when we grow the skill set and hold ourselves accountable to do the work, to have some level of engagement, healing, and that type of representation is an equalizer or balances what hospitals have to offer. Where my man said it earlier, it's not the one place where you're looking to go to have these experiences to grow and flourish, and like you're going there because something's wrong and you're coming out to get right. So it's a destination point. And I feel like at this destination point, there should be a variety of options to your health. And we all know that like taking care of yourself is a part of humanity. And my hopes is that the hospital reaches out in ways to try to make those dots connect, where it's just breaking, it's busting myths, it's breaking tradition, it's opening up a whole new realm to this universal thought. The band is just a sampler. I'm not much on words, I'm a lot on action. And so I like to surround myself with people of that caliber and would love to hold the hospital just, accountable to what I hold myself accountable to, so that we can share that responsibility and get the work done. I feel like the piece represents healthcare workers so that patients gain the one thing that comes with love, and that's trust. Where I'm from, you wear a mask, you know what time it is. And we're being challenged right now with these masks on our face to have that level of trust with the one thing that's a window into your soul. I feel like for people who are in the medical field that put on masks, it's ironic that if you're making up your face, you're putting lotion on, you're lining up your bid, you're making yourself presentable for the world. But then on top of that, you're putting on this mask. And how do you break that wall down with something that's as simple as a, thin piece that separates you from the truth? And I feel like this is showing the reinstatement of trust, and just knowing that love is gonna lead the openness to building that, and just keeping us in a space where like we're honoring our heroes and heroines. We're having those conversations, and we're just not letting what's visible keep us from each other. That's really the piece, is just to open up a conversation and to talk about this smile that we wear, whether it's a mask or whether our face is made up, and what we have to do to break those barriers for trust. I want to say the inspiration is from the artists that are around me that are Black and Latino, Black and brown, and that we see in ourselves as a part of the future in this city. You got brothers like Rob Stoll, Larry Pierce, Equa Holmes, Lamerchi, the poet Askia Torre, when he speaks to the narrative of what Afrofuturistic may consist of, and just giving us the words to have that imagination unfold. I hear those stories, I look at these pieces, I am of this representation. I am a product and a vessel to just showing how like I can translate that same information through 12 ounces of spray paint. The city's culture is vital. It's one of those things that like we have to make sure that it stays active. And the way to do that is just to invest in the future. So Artists for Humanity is where you'll find me at. You can check us out at afhboston.org. My personal website would be ProBlak.com, ProBlak. And from that, you can get on to my social medias, which is all ProBlak. All right.